Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Welcome, everybody. Today, we are so excited to have Claire Berger join us. She has written a memoir, and it's not any memoir, it's an interactive memoir. You can listen to it, you can read it, you can do workshop exercises, you can do a lot of thinking too, and some laughing, and that's a good thing. The book is called How Much Is Enough? Getting More by Living with Less. And you can go to her website, claireberger.com. That's Claire with an E, and that's Berger. So claireberger.com. The link is in the episode notes, so you can go directly there. And this is for our Big Blend Radio Books and Authors show that we do every second Wednesday with our friends over at Books Forward, and keep up with them at booksforward.com. But welcome, Claire. How are you?
I'm great. It's so good to be here, Lisa. Thank you.
I love this that your background is in stand-up, because I think, my heart goes, big for comedians getting up there and having to commit to it. Even if you're bombing, I always go, man, you guys have some cojones. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. It's our show for years, but
why not? Thank you.
I said it.
Great compliment.
But I think it's so I listen to a lot of podcasts and we watch a ton of comedy. And as you know, we travel the country. We pet sit on the way. And so not for money, but it's like we'll be watching stuff and I'm like, oh, we better delete that so people can't see that on our history. But the place that we're pet sitting. But I think comedians have some serious life lessons for folks, because you are number one, good comedians are super intelligent, super observant, find the quirky and the fun, even at the most inopportune times when we actually need it. But you have to, like I said, get out there on stage and go through rejection, I think, more than what an actor goes through.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I read a study when I was first starting out as a stand-up that said you set yourself up for rejection on the average of every 7 seconds, because that's how long it takes the audience member to sort of comprehend the setup of your joke. And, someone calculated the average number of jokes in a 20-minute set. And I mean, it was all very kind of clinical, which of course comedy can never be. But it was a little daunting when I first heard that. And I thought, well, the flip side of that is I could get validation every 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I have people listening to me. I have to strive to learn a little bit about a lot of things. And it's a great life path, no matter what you do in life.
Well, also, I love your book because you're looking at how much is enough. And I watched, it was like a biography of Michelle Obama talking about that. Her parents had kind of passed. Her dad had always said, do you really need that second piece of cake? Is that enough? And I thought, yeah, we're kind of gluttonous, as human creatures. And I think we start to become greedy, even if we're not normally greedy people. We just go, I do want to have that second piece of cake, but do we really need it?
I think we come by that honestly, though, Lisa, whether we are a product of depression or poverty or, just financial inequity. There's so many reasons why
survival. I mean, we were cavemen, so as soon as you saw, hey, I got an extra buck, I'm gonna use it, so it makes sense.
But there's so many ways to enjoy and appreciate life that has nothing to do with stuff or money. You know that better than anyone with the traveling that you do, the choices that you've made for you and your mom to live this quality of life that you have. It reminds me of the college gift that I gave my daughter. What do you give an adult child who's about to leave you forever? I decided on a 10-day road trip hitting national parks.
And we love that.
Yeah, we did Bryce, Zion, Monument Valley, and Grand Canyon. And it was the most selfish gift I've ever given anybody, to have 10 days with an adult child who will be spending the next rest of her life separating and differentiating herself from being your child, was magnificent. And it really wasn't about stuff. It was about collective memories, which you can never have enough of, right?
And road trips always have an obstacle. And if you didn't get any obstacles, it wasn't a good enough road trip. I'm just saying something has to happen. You know what I mean? So, and
Oh,
work
yeah.
through it together. And that makes the memories. It could just be like, I'm never going to get to that top of that hill or
Yeah.
that mountain. And you do somehow, you push each other on. And having the right partner on a road trip is crucial. Because if
I
you
think it's
have
a
the
great
worst
litmus
one,
test, right?
you
I
could
mean,
kill somebody.
yeah.
It's just
It's
like,
true.
you
Yeah,
know,
it's
but,
true.
but uh, going back to the comedy too, when you go up on stage, what you have is you and your material and having to know. I know people use teleprompters and stuff too, but you guys have to be good at you. Did you use them or not?
No,
Like a
no,
tele.
gosh, no, no one did. No one did in
Oh,
comedy
okay.
clubs or in television. No. As a stand-up, yes, it's just me and my material, but it's also the audience. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, the energy that I would get from the audience, my background is improvisation. I was trained and performed at the Second City in Chicago. I think improv training should be core curriculum for everybody, no matter what you do in life, because learning how to think on your feet, having the confidence to do so, gleaning knowledge from other people and other experiences will serve you if you're a bank
Mm-hmm.
teller or a hotel concierge or a bank, it doesn't matter. I really believe improv is really, really important training. And so for me, relating to the audience, learning about the audience, kind of taking their temperature had a lot to do with my success in comedy.
Yeah, and you did different avenues where others, hey, we got to be on SNL and we have to be on all these different things. You're like, actually, I like this, and this is what's going to suit my life. So I don't need, to me, I look at fame and going, holy cow, I would hate it. I would hate that lifestyle. It would not be me. You know what I
I
mean?
never aspired to it. My goal was to earn a living as a comedian and raise my family and be
Mm,
home to raise my family. So I
mm,
did the road before I had kids. But once I got pregnant with my daughter and I was on the road until about 8 months pregnant with her. But then I lucked into the career as a warm-up comic, which is
mm.
keeping the audiences entertained on sound stages where sitcoms are being shot. And this was in the 80s where it was really the heyday. It was
Yeah.
perfect. Like it was just a perfect timing thing for me because I could stay home and be there with my kids during the day and at night go work on incredible shows like Seinfeld and Murphy Brown and Friends
Oh,
and
that's
Cheers
awesome.
and Night Court. And so it was just the best work-life balance any comedian could ever dream of having.
That's awesome. And the fact too, getting back into like less is more, right?
Yes,
And how much is enough? When you go up on stage, it is you. Like you're saying, improv is really good. It keeps your mind attuned.
it does.
Um, but it is the more you bring on stage, the more you're relying on props and stuff. So I know a lot of comedians, have their props. Some are prop like, some are totally that's their thing.
Right.
Um, but it's still, less is more, right?
Yes.
So do you think being a comedian when you get up on stage, it's not like you have a band that's going to pick you up if you screw up on stage, right? It's just you. So that is like the ultimate that is the ultimate of less is more, just being
Well,
up on
that's
stage.
one of the reasons that I loved and had to leave Second City. Because when you're in Second City, you're in an ensemble of five brilliant improv comics, and they will bail you out. If you're
Mm,
floundering,
yeah.
they come right in there. There's the philosophy of yes and, meaning, you never stop whatever anybody else's reality is on stage, whatever they say, your response is yes and you build the scene.
Hmm.
And I really see that as a great life lesson if we can really adopt the yes and approach. But Second City wasn't real life. I wasn't going to have five people bailing me out of a troublesome punchline or a challenging audience. I knew I had to go it alone, and that's
Mm.
why I developed my career as a stand-up and a warm-up.
Now, also, with your book, I want to get into how you decided to do this and write it. And the way you did it, I think is brilliant because you've got nuggets of wisdom for people to contemplate and then ask them questions to write it down, do some exercises. I always love interactive memoirs and interactive books because I think if you're just telling people what to do, no one wants to be told what to do. No
No.
one wants that. They have to come to the answers themselves. And you're also anecdotal, you're telling stories. So that's really brilliant. But gets to me, like reading through some of the parts, it's like you're getting people to think, make decisions. So it's like every time you do something, you're making a decision. And it's almost like, how much do you want to stress over this?
Well,
So I
I've
feel like you're an
yeah.
ultimate stress reliever through
Thank
comedy
you.
and then through doing these exercises and making people think. And it's like that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, this book is so many things. I mean, I think it's like a very unique mashup of memoir and self-help.
Mm-hmm.
It's equal parts of both. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I set myself up when I wrote the memoir to really bare my soul and to tell my truths. And I've been extremely honest
Mm-hmm.
in every single chapter as it relates to the chapter's topic. And I expect you, the reader or the listener, to do the same. And so to
Mm-hmm.
help you, I've braided all kinds of prompts, like you said, questions, thoughts, opportunities for self-reflection. And I really hope people will read this book and come away from it feeling more than anything else that they are enough, that we
Mm,
have enough, that whatever our life circumstances are, we are living and making the
mm-hmm.
conscious choice to live our best life.
Mm. Now, the other part of it is in the interactive is you've got a Facebook community too, right?
Yes, yes. I really want to keep the conversation going. Lisa, I really wrote this book to start a conversation like we're having
Awesome.
right now, like I'm willing to have anywhere. I'm about to head out on a 6-month book tour. I will be speaking
Ooh.
in beauty salons, health food stores. I've got an event in a restaurant and in a assisted living home. I want and will talk to anybody about the concept of enough. And I don't care what age or stage you're in, you are asking yourself these questions. We all wake up in the morning with this unconscious inventory. The
Mhm,
first thing I think of when I wake up, did I get enough sleep? Is there enough healthy food in the house? Do I have enough time to hang out with my grandkids today?
mhm,
It just goes on and on. And the commonality is enough. Are
mhm.
we enough?
And are we going overboard? That's the other
Right.
thing.
Right.
Living a very simplistic life. It's so funny because we each have a suitcase because we drive a RAV4. It's a small, I mean, everybody's like, well, you should get a this and that. I'm like, no, no, RV, you do not want to see that happen with me driving. I'm a really good driver, but I know enough is this is so
Yes.
perfect, right?
Yes.
And so we each have a suitcase. And then we have what we call is our overnight bag, which is a backpack each, basically. And Nancy has a beach bag because she's like, oh, I'm using this. Why? Why throw stuff away? And I think in the era now of climate change and just things being stacked up in landfills, how much do we need, right? So that question comes in. But it's so funny because every once in a while, do we ever take the suitcase out of the actual car? Not if we have to. Now it's hot, so we know things could melt. Who knows what's in there? We do. But do we actually open the suitcase? I opened it once and I got one shirt out, and we've been here for just over a week. We will live out of this bag. We are so pathetic. And then we go, do we have any other clothes? Do we throw these clothes away? No, because what if? So there's this thing over a suitcase each. And we go, okay, well, maybe we should just have one suitcase. That would be easier. No, because what about winter? This is the most pathetic thing over how much
Oh,
is enough. But
I
this
admire that.
this is crazy though. This is a suitcase. But other people have to go in your house and do the whole detox, right? Of how
Right,
many
right.
clothes you have. And we've done that. And we've done it several times living internationally. You learn pretty quickly. And living in Africa and leaving African countries and you lose a lot. You just do.
Yeah.
That's it. So we've kind of learned, don't sweat the small stuff of stuff.
And in my chapter, of course have a chapter about stuff. I did a lot of research on the storage space industry. I mean, it's a
Oh my God,
multi-billion
don't talk
dollar
to me about it.
industry. And honestly, storage spaces are just, overpriced hiding places.
Yeah.
I challenge my readers to go into your storage space and put your hands on one thing that you love, one thing that you want to pass down to your family, and one thing that reminds you of a horrible memory that you never want to see again. And I think once you start that kind of mentality, you realize it's much easier to get rid of stuff, and nobody needs a storage space. They just don't. you know?
Well, that's kind of what we're looking at. We've had a storage space since we've been on the road. We started at a 10 by 10, I think, or whatever around that. Then we came home for a couple years, and we actually did have a cups, and we had two wine glasses, two plates, two knives and forks, because we knew if we had to stop, it would be something small, get a quick apartment because we'd bail because we need to garden, So if we get anything bigger, you're not leaving again. So we unpack everything, had already gone and bought the dishes, thinking, oh, whoopsie, found the box of dishes at the very end, of course. And we had all these books we thought we had to have. We get the books out. Did we look at them? No. And because we remember them, it's the memory of these books, carting them around the world. And then we gave them to people who really wanted them, and we love books. Where that's our money goes to books, music, and plants and
Sounds
wine.
like a good life to me.
And wine. We've got to do that. But and apparently the car. But it was really interesting. So now we're down to a 9 by 5 storage. All our possessions are in there other than the darn suitcases, right? So you look at that and you go, okay, we keep going. Our storage space bill goes up. I think it has doubled in the last 4 years. No joke. And we
Yeah.
look around like, why are we paying all this money? Why?
I mean, you're paying rent for stuff. And, for someone like you guys who are on the road, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it
It's
does. We have to
home
keep some of the
base.
stuff in there for sure.
Yeah,
But
or for people that are in transition, they're in the process
yeah.
of moving. For me, we did that when my 30-year marriage ended and we split up the family, and we moved into two separate places, and there was all the sentimental stuff from our kids' childhood, and we didn't know where to put that. But, in time, and as my kids got older, I finally said, look, you have to take ownership over your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you need to go in and decide, what is it that you want to pass on to your kids? What do you want to keep? I don't think we're going on that family ski trip anymore. I think we can get rid of the skis. And my son is a drummer, but did he need the
Okay.
first drum that we bought him at 6 years old? That was for him to decide. So it was those kinds of really emotional questions that we all had to ask ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But they're important questions to ask because we can't define ourselves by whether or not we have enough stuff. Life's too rich
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
matter.
Well, we have to keep our storage unit. It's got all our slides and Nancy's artwork and stuff. So we really
Yeah.
do have to, in my writing. So we're
Yes.
keeping it. But it is interesting, these questions, because did we need the big one? No, we could go down to exactly what was really, really precious. And if we ever open that door, we're in trouble. But we're in trouble with it if we open it. But when you go through, your book, the topics that you have in here, you even have travel. So we're on the scale of crazy travel, right? But that's a lifestyle. But like when you talk about travel, how much is enough for travel? Are you getting enough, or are you going exorbitant? Like, tell
And
us a little
and
bit
the
about
way
that.
that you travel too, I talk in the book about I was in Venice, Italy, and I was watching
Mm.
these people on the gondolas, and their selfie stick, and they're shooting pictures of themselves in the gondola, and they're completely ignoring the magnificent architecture, the waterways, the gondolier, this unbelievably unique, romantic, beautiful. All they're doing is shooting
It's a
themselves.
bucket list experience for many.
Oh my goodness. And the whole time I thought, how many are enough selfies for you to put down that stick and take in what is around you? It is so magnificent. Like you said, it's such a bucket list destination. And for me, there's never enough travel because
Mhm.
as a student of my life, and I like to think of myself as a perpetual student, I learned so much about myself and
Oh,
my
travel, yeah.
country, quite frankly, when I
Hmm.
leave. When I travel within the country, there are so many ways that Americans live. And as a stand-up, I worked in 48 of our 50 states, and I got to really get to spend
That's
time with
awesome.
people. And I was amazed, just amazed at how diverse
Mm.
culturally, socially, economically our country is, and then expand that into Europe and Asia. I mean, it's just a big, glorious, beautiful world with a lot of problems. But at the end of the day, for me, there is not enough opportunity for travel. I always want to
Travel
go.
is education. It really is. And it's self-education too. Like we were saying, a road trip, you go through obstacles and challenges and change, which life is, perpetual change.
Yes.
That's the thing too. And I think if you're over cluttered with stuff, it's harder to make a change that needs to happen. And a change will happen whether you like it or not. It's going to
Right.
happen, right?
Right.
It's like AI is here. Ugh,
Yeah. But
but
make time for travel. Like there's so many people, I'm sure you know as well, that just work, 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 work their whole life, and they save travel for when they quote unquote retire. Well, what if you don't get there? What if you can't retire? What if you get sick? You know, to have put off something so fundamental and important and social and joyful. And there's a lot of ways to travel. You know, I'm a huge cook. I love cooking, and I think traveling on your plate is a great way to travel.
mhm.
You know, really experimenting with all kinds of cultural foods, learning, challenging, getting out of your comfort zone as you prepare your meals, and mastering a new cuisine is a form of travel. It's not about spending a lot of money. It's just about expanding your vision, your comfort zone, and your understanding of what's
Mhm.
possible in this world.
Yeah, and it's even, you talk about money, it's like people talk about eating healthy. Oh, that's so, much more expensive. Yes and no. It depends on how you're doing it and looking at you make decisions according to what you have, what your dreams and aspirations are, right? So it's like, oh, maybe this is in season right now, right? So maybe that's what you purchase. Well, I've never made spaghetti squash. Well, you could be like me and put it in the microwave and watch it explode. At least everybody has a good laugh and goes, don't do that again. But at
Yeah.
least I only paid like $1 for it or something because it was in season, right? So,
Yes.
then you learn and then you laugh and then you try again, hopefully. And it was actually, we did salvage it. A little
Well,
bit
and
of Parmesan does everything.
it does everything. Parmesan and butter, right? But
Yeah.
a regional palette is so fun. If you're traveling the way you travel, you know, you can't beat corn in the Midwest in the summer, and you can't beat stone fruit in the Northeast, and the
Yeah.
seafood on the in the Northwest. I mean, you have to eat locally because it's the freshest, it's the best. And again, another way to expand your palate. There's never
And
enough, you know?
supporting small agriculture. That's the other thing is where are we putting our dollars? Where
Yes.
are we doing that? Are we putting it to the right places, the wrong places? Sometimes buying the fancy in style thing is going to the wrong people
Yeah.
and you're paying double and that's stalling a dream perhaps, right? So is that part of the balance too?
Of course, I've eaten in restaurants that are that they make the 100-mile radius commitment. So everything that they serve in the restaurant has to come from a 100-mile radius. And there are these restaurants all over the country, all over the world, actually. And it's a fabulous social
Mhm.
experiment too, because you have to meet your neighbors, you have to learn about the farmers, the resources that are available within 100 miles. It brings a community closer
Mm,
in the name of commerce and
mm.
hospitality. I think that's beautiful.
And happy, yeah, and it's a happier community when everyone's supporting each other, right? So with this too,
Absolutely.
going back into your career, right? In business, I think a lot of people try to put on too much on their shoulders, whether or not it's working for somebody else or not. And maybe we need some balance. And I think COVID really shook everything up when people were at home and realized, oh my gosh, I have a garden that's overgrown and I can grow. Everybody's like, I don't have a green thumb. I'm like, well, there are some basic, easy things you can do.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it if you want to do it.
Yeah. I
And
absolutely talk about that in the work chapter, because not only is there a garden that you
mhm,
haven't seen in a while, there might be children that are growing up in your house that you haven't seen in a while.
And they're like, gee, how did you become so tall? Oh, that's
And,
where all the
and
food went. Yeah.
and that's the silver lining, I think, of the pandemic is that people really reevaluated
Mhm.
how much is enough time to spend away from my family at the office? Can I be productive at home? And what we've proved the last
Mhm.
5 years is that, in fact, we can be extremely productive at home and have a whole different quality of work-life balance and be more present for our family. And I can't imagine a better takeaway and then that very scary time for so many of us, you know.
Well, I know a lot of people, especially, and it goes in stages. We all go through life cycles, and it could be generational or whatever, right? But we all go through stages in life according to what we're doing as well. Our careers can change just because suddenly, I mean, we're from the print era. Well, look at us now. It's a little bit different, you know?
Mhm.
So, that's how we started was print magazines. I remember Nancy, my mom, I used to work with her typesetting, like actual sticking things on things and it would be printed that way. And then she was one of the first people who had a processing computer that would process film in South Africa for the magazine. It was like we've gone through this cycle. So, everybody goes through changes. Through change, you can also you get creativity, which is great, but you can also burn yourself out. And so the world is going through a lot of change. And I see people kind of in this topsy-turvy thing. And I know my age group, we're all going, holy cow, we need to take a breath because we've all been hauling so hard until you get to your middle zone. Then some people buy Ferraris. I ain't doing that. You don't want to
Mm.
see me drive that either. But some people go, okay, wait a minute. I've been working so hard. What has it amounted to? Did it amount to the money? Did it not? What is it equated to? So are you finding that kind of response to your book and the discussion in your Facebook community about sudden burnout and change? Because I think that in COVID, it was great. We all kind of had this perspective, and then we had to get back out there. And some people really had to get out there and make money because they weren't, there's a and now we're seeing another little wave. I know that in some of the restaurant industries had some real crushes. Even if they made it through, they couldn't power it out that next few years. So I'm seeing this kind of widespread little feeling of burnout. And I think your book, personally think it's perfectly timed for, you know, people had to get back out there, then overdid it. It was changed because work changed, how
Mm.
they work remotely, then that balance and everything. And now people are kind of like, we better reevaluate. Summer is a perfect time to do it with your family. So
Sure.
do you see that kind of conversation of people's like, you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the only thing you can be sure of in life is change.
mhm,
And you have a choice to either be inflexible and resist it or be facile and reinvent. And I think if I represent anything to my kids, it's the beauty and the power of reinvention. You
oh,
know, as a comedian and as a freelance writer, I've probably had over 100 jobs in my 40 plus years of
wow,
employment.
you go,
And
girl.
you know, the big secret about that, and all freelancers know this, is that your job is actually the coffee break from your real job, which is looking for the next job and then the job after that. So it's a grind to be a freelancer, to be a performer. But we do it by choice because we do
Mm,
appreciate the opportunity to be facile and the beauty of reinvention. And I really see, especially all of my kids are in tech, and tech is constantly reinventing the wheel for all of us technologically, but within their own corporate structure.
mm,
Whatever is current today is obsolete tomorrow. And that's just how fast the world changes. So if you can't be facile, if you can't be flexible and open to change, you will cease to succeed in this world.
mhm.
I am sentimental about the old days. I can reminisce as much as the next person. That's one foot. The other foot is really appreciating progress and technology and all the things that we have, including this Zoom and the opportunity that I have to talk to you right
Thank
now.
God for Zoom during the pandemic, right? I remember right before Zoom, we have a big blend radio community and now, but I was always dreaming of this. How do I network everybody I know together? So, and I like you want that community
Mhm.
and finally got it. And before Zoom, I was teaching people about Zoom. And I had to do Zoom classes, and it was like, everyone, we can do this, because everyone was so used to calling into the radio show. We were
Right.
doing live podcasts by their phone. And I just like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Then Zoom happened during the pandemic. And then everyone's like, oh, we should do Zoom. I'm like, dudes, what? Come on. I've been telling you this for years. Can we do this, please? So it's interesting how it changes, because eventually, if you don't go with the flow and make a change and bend, be the willow, you're going to keep hitting your head against the wall and you're going to be miserable. It is.
Well, and honestly, we all know people that are chronically unhappy and complain about not having enough. And they're also unhealthy. And it's the lens that they look at through life. They're always wanting more. They want the
Mm,
bigger house. They want the better clothes. They want their children to succeed in a way that they may not be. They want to travel more. They want. And you're missing the forest for the trees, right? You're not taking a step back and appreciating all that you have, the fact that you in fact do have enough. You're just not taking this opportunity to really appreciate and see what it is that you
mhm.
have. And whether
Yeah.
that's your job or your relationships or your things or your opportunity, and most importantly, your health.
Yeah.
There's all this pressure to look a certain way. Well, how about how to feel a certain
Yeah.
way? I'll tell you what, we're all going to die and we're all going to get older, and we can spend as much money as we like on plastic surgery and fancy sport cars to give us the illusion of being younger, or we can just embrace the beauty that is our life and our
Yeah.
age right now, you know? There are
Yeah.
so
I
many
agree.
women I know that are in their 60s like me, that are sort of mourning the days of having beauty be their currency. But the truth
Oh,
is, Lisa, for me, being at this age and actually feeling kind of invisible in society is a superpower to me. It is
I
enough
love it.
for me to walk through the world and know that my beauty is not defined by social media, an eyelash extension,
Yeah.
a cat call from a stranger. I am beautiful enough
Mhm,
because I'm here, I'm healthy, I have the
mhm.
relationships that I have. I don't really need anything else to feel beautiful.
Oh, that's a good point. See, I love this because it goes both ways.
Yes.
About the enough word. Are you doing what you need to have that enough that is core to you, or are you overdoing so that you have too much instead
I
of
think
cutting off?
I really think this book really puts a spotlight on the concept of enough in all aspects of our life. I think it's almost been an unconscious messaging that we've
Mm,
done. And my challenge to your listeners, to my readers, is that negative self-talk, or is that really positive reinforcement in your life?
mm. Well, you see, like going back to the change part of it, people are fearful of change. And they're also fearful if they're at the beginning of change. They want to wait for everybody else to go and make the passage for them, which I always go like, I want to be one of the first. I do, because then you kind of know stuff. I don't know, you just kind of have a little bit more insider scoop. It's easier if you're not the first wave in to whatever it is. It's definitely easier to have somebody else pave the way. But I like going out there and like checking it out as an explorer.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that. And you're going to take extra beatings for it. But it's like, I'm going to wear some armor. It's like part of, as kids, we used to go, this is my war wounds. You know what I mean? This, like, I fell down here. Look at this. We love to show off our scars as tomboys. And, I was always up trees with kids, so that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's always like a badge of honor to go for it. But
Yeah.
I think if you sit back, I don't know, you're not really doing yourself any favors to jump in there, and you've already made it negative. So you're never going to truly enjoy until you step out there. And if you make a mistake, who cares?
Yeah, you learn from it, and you keep moving. We're human. Humans make mistakes. That's just the
Hmm.
way it is.
What I think, like we were talking about comedians bombing, right? That's actually funny in itself. It's kind of like, well, that didn't work. That's funny to me.
Well, and also, sometimes I would just do things for myself on stage. There was a joke that I used to tell, and I can't even tell you what it is, but I remember thinking, this one's just for me.
Yeah.
And whether the audience laughs or not, and I would say it was a 50-50 proposition, but I was entertaining myself at the same time I was entertaining my audience. And that was really, I think, it sharpened my vision and my perspective as a comedian, for sure.
And leaving, second stage, going from that with the troupe, like actually having improv partners right on stage and then going solo, right? You knew you had to do that. You had to
Yeah.
make that jump, which is scary as heck, right? You know that
I
that's
mean,
scary, but
it was scary, but it was also inevitable. Like I said, I never,
yeah.
I knew there weren't going to be 5 people bailing me out on a joke. I had to stand on my own 2 feet. And the culture at Second City, they never really respected stand-ups. I remember talking to Joan River in Las Vegas after one of her shows, and she said, look, one of my badge of honors that I got fired from Second City. And she said, I got fired because I had a life outside of Second City. I had comedy and my stand-up career outside of Second City, and that's just real life. And nobody does just one thing anymore. I mean,
You
that's the
can't.
other reality of the working world. People can call it a side hustle, but the truth is, I know very few people, and I'm guessing your listeners are amongst those that also know very few people who only do one thing. It's just kind
Musicians,
of the way it is.
especially
Yeah.
authors, anybody in the creative world, you have to have a second funding somewhere
Yeah.
most
No,
of the
and
time,
I mean, in most businesses,
unless you're
I know a
Taylor
lot of,
Swift.
yeah, right. Or you have some family money hidden somewhere or something,
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's the beauty of life. That's why we're the
Yes.
blend. We were told to only focus on one thing, and we're like, it's all connected, man. It's like if you like birds, you may like gardening, and then you may like going to a park. And if you like
Yeah.
gardening, you may like to cook your own vegetables and fruit that you
Yeah.
grew. So it's kind of like we just go, this is all connected.
And the challenge in publishing, Lisa, is that when you pitch your book idea to publishers, they say, well, it has to fit in. What is it? Where will they put it on the shelf?
The
Well,
box, yeah.
I'm not just interested in where it's going to go on the shelf. I'm interested in how it resonates with my readers and my listeners. And so the idea of mashing self-help and memoir made perfect sense to me.
Mhm.
And also the opportunity to encourage the reader to read it in any order that they want to.
I love that
That's
too.
kind of
Yeah.
revolutionary too, right? There's nothing chronological about the concept of enough. It's something that we think about every day in so many different ways. Why shouldn't you read the book in any order that appeals to you and speaks
Yeah.
to your sensibility?
I'm gonna go read the food one. I want extra pizza tonight. I already know it. So I'm gonna who doesn't want extra pizza?
Oh,
Somebody
yeah,
doesn't out there, I know. But
yeah.
I think this is so great. And I love that you have a Facebook community and have that conversation going and doing your book tour. So everyone can go to your website. I'm going to put a link to the Facebook group in the show notes, the episode notes as well,
Thank you. Thank
because
you.
that is fantastic. So 6 months on the road, right?
Yes, yes. And I'm
Ooh.
going to really count on that Facebook community to kind of keep me fresh. And I really want people to, I think at the beginning they were waiting for me to initiate conversations about the concept of enough, but I really want the group's consciousness to be a collective conversation about enough. So if you're thinking or struggling about the concept of enough in some aspect of your life, throw it into the group and let us all discuss it and come to some understanding that you might not be able to get on your own.
Yeah, exactly. You see, it's another community. I love that. Well, I'm going to go join the group. Yeah.
Please. And
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
so much for inviting me here.
This was fun. This was awesome. Well, have fun on the road. I know you will, right? And
Give your
enjoy
mom my
eating.
best. And just
Yes, I
again, I
will.
just admire so much that, mothers and daughters in this world can work and live and travel together. That's a
Oh,
beautiful thing.
it is. She's waving from the other room over there with two little dogs that want to yap at garden people outside. So she's playing Yapper Patrol. But she's
Thank you,
waving.
Lisa.
Thank you. You take care. Everyone, again, go to claireberger.com. Also want to give a shout out to booksforward.com. Thank you all for joining us. And don't forget, how much is enough is the book. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.